Whenever tensions flare up between Israelis and Palestinians, the world turns to the United States, hoping for effective peacemaking actions. But time and again, the world is left disheartened by the responses it receives. This raises many questions about the backing of the U.S. for Israel. As Israel acts against a helpless minority lacking basic necessities in their homeland, the U.S.'s support always stands with them. The questions persist. Why does Israel keep expanding its territory while Palestinians are confined to refugee camps? Why does Gaza bear the wrath of Israeli airstrikes when tensions mount in the West Bank? And why does the U.S., among others, remain tight-lipped about Israeli aggression? Today, we'll be shedding light on these issues. The Israel Lobby is a group of powerful people and organizations that work to support Israel and its government's interests. It's important to note that this is not illegal. These groups and individuals have a lot of money, and they don't hesitate to use it to try to influence decisions in various ways. Since the United States has been the most powerful country in the world since the Soviet Union collapsed, these lobbyists work hard to make sure that the U.S. government's foreign policies benefit Israel. The Israel Lobby is mainly made up of Zionist Jews who follow a political and nationalist movement called Zionism. Zionists believe in the idea of a greater Israel, which includes the old Canaan region, the Holy Land, and the whole area of Palestine where the ancient Philistines lived. Modern Zionism began in response to a rise in anti-Semitism in the late 19th century. Jewish thinkers embraced the Zionist idea, and a demand for a homeland in Palestine grew. At the time, Palestine was controlled by the Ottoman Empire, but after the Ottoman Empire fell, the League of Nations passed the Balfour Declaration, supporting the idea of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Israel's lobbying efforts in the United States employ three distinct strategies, carefully navigating the political landscape. These strategies have significant influence in American politics, particularly when it comes to labeling opponents as anti-Semitic, potentially swaying public opinion. The first tactic involves providing financial support to American politicians during their campaigns for various offices, including mayors, senators, governors, and even the presidency. After their preferred candidates secure victory with this financial backing, the lobby leverages their connections and seeks favors in return. While this financial support isn't inherently illegal, it becomes problematic when these politicians advocate for biased foreign policies in Washington. The second strategy takes a more unsettling approach, manipulating public discourse through media outlets, think tanks, publications, and interviews. These platforms often present a biased, one-sided perspective on specific events, as observed in the Israel-Palestine conflict. The use of terms like self-defense to justify extensive bombings in Gaza raises questions about the balance of power in the conflict, including the Palestinian Army's capabilities, aircraft, and navy. As a last resort, the lobby may resort to character assassination, smearing potential candidates and branding them as anti-Semitic. It's important to note that the Israeli lobby's work isn't tied to religion or ethnicity, yet the accusation of anti-Semitism carries immense weight, potentially ruining a politician's career, credibility, and popularity. For instance, when President Jimmy Carter authored Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid, he faced severe criticism from various media outlets, including the Washington Post. These strategies are deployed to divert attention from critical issues, such as U.S. foreign policy, the Israeli government's practices, and human rights violations in Gaza. The Israeli lobby in the United States is made up of various interest groups, organizations, think tanks, and individuals who work together in a loose but influential way. These groups are some of the most powerful lobbying forces in the country. Among these groups are political action committees like the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, Christians United for Israel, CUFI, the Zionist Organization of America, ZOA, and the Anti-Defamation League, ADL. There are also think tanks such as the Jewish Institute of National Security of America, JINSA, and the Washington Institute of Near East Policy, WINEP. What's noteworthy is that all these groups consistently support what they call a special relationship between the United States and Israel. This special relationship translates into approximately $38 billion in U.S. military aid to Israel, along with around $8 billion in loan guarantees. Currently, most of the U.S.'s assistance to Israel comes in the form of military aid, though in the past, Israel has also received significant economic assistance from the United States. In the years following the Cold War, the United States' support for Israel in the Middle East has raised many questions in terms of U.S. foreign policy. This unconditional aid to Israel has strained relations with Muslim nations. Even Osama bin Laden, in the aftermath of 9/11, pointed to the U.S.'s pro-Israel stance as a motivation for al-Qaeda's attack on the Twin Towers. Furthermore, John J. Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt argue in their book that the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003 was influenced by the Israel lobby. Although it wasn't the initial plan, neoconservatives and Israeli lobbyists played a pivotal role in convincing the Bush administration to proceed. This invasion severely damaged the United States' global reputation, particularly in the Muslim world. The U.S. invasion of Iraq also contributed to the emergence of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, a radical group responsible for disruption in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Walt and Mearsheimer assert that the lobby aimed to remove Saddam Hussein and then launch a two-pronged attack on Iran from Iraq and Afghanistan, seeing these nations as threats to Israel. Additionally, the United States often praises Israel as a vibrant democracy. However, in this so-called democracy, Palestinians face significant restrictions on their rights. Palestinians encounter severe hurdles to obtaining citizenship. Travel bans are imposed, and illegal settlements are constructed on Palestinian lands, leading to their eviction from homes they have occupied for decades. To add to the complexity, groups like al-Qaeda and ISIS, fueled by anti-American sentiments, target American assets, both domestically and internationally. This is because the United States has not effectively addressed Israeli actions on Palestinian lands or acted as a mediator between the two parties. Furthermore, Hezbollah, a Muslim organization, emerged in response to Israel's aggressive actions in Lebanon in 1982. It's worth noting that in 1983, Hezbollah targeted the U.S. Marines barracks in Beirut, resulting in the tragic loss of 241 U.S. military personnel, 58 French military personnel, and 6 civilians. In the recent conflict, it wasn't the Palestinians who started it, but rather the Israeli police force. The trouble began when Palestinians peacefully protested their eviction from Sheikh Jarrah's neighborhood. The Israeli forces responded with gas grenades and water cannons, which only fueled more extensive protests and harsh Israeli crackdowns. Hamas issued warnings to Israel to stop the aggression, but those warnings were disregarded. Israeli police even entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque during prayers, causing violence and injuries, with 200 people losing their lives. Despite more warnings from Hamas, Israelis attacked the Al-Aqsa Mosque again and set centuries-old trees on fire, injuring 600 people. In response, Hamas launched rockets that were intercepted mid-air by the Israeli defense system. In retaliation, Israel launched a massive offensive on Gaza, resulting in casualties, including minors and women. What's striking is how the media portrayed the situation, as if Hamas initiated the rocket attacks, when it was Israel that began the aggression. This incident raises questions about how the public perceives these events and the strategies employed by interest groups. Israel's quick decisions have caused chaos in the Middle East, whether it's striking nuclear facilities in Syria and Iraq, secret operations by Mossad in Syria, assassinating Iranian scientists, aggressive bombings in Gaza, or full-scale invasions that put the U.S. in a tough spot when it supports Israel's actions. It's clear that impulsive actions have consequences. Many see the Israeli lobby as a problematic force in U.S. policymaking, undermining the principles on which America was built. Americans must realize that if they allow this lobby to shape U.S. foreign policy, they'll keep losing credibility and global support. To truly address the Israel-Palestine conflict and benefit the U.S. while protecting the rights of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, the U.S. needs to reduce the influence of these interest groups in its Middle East policy. It's time for a new approach that benefits everyone. As we conclude today's video, we eagerly await your feedback and thoughts about the content we presented. Your opinion matters greatly to us, so don't hesitate to share it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video and found it valuable, we would greatly appreciate it if you could show your support by giving us a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing to our channel to stay updated with our latest content. If you find the information we provide useful, don't forget to share this video with your friends and family so they can benefit from it too. Make sure to press the bell icon to receive notifications about our upcoming videos. Until then, stay tuned, take care, and thank you for being part of our community.